Everybody, I'll call the meeting to order at 9:31 a.m. and acknowledge that the meeting is being held on the traditional territories of 10 Chalmouth nations, most of which are unceded. Welcome everybody today. Also note that the meeting's being recorded and live streamed to YouTube on the ACRD website. If anyone is out there and has questions, they can be emailed to the ACRD at responses@acrd.bc.ca, and we will answer those questions at the end of the meeting. And yeah, let's do a round of intros because we have Kaylee here joining us today. And why don't you start it off, Kaylee?
Thanks, Heather. And Amy, thanks for the invite. My name's Kaylee Ruel. I am a registered dietitian with Island Health, and I've taken on a new role as the public health dietitian for the Alberni Clayoquot region. So just very excited to be participating in this committee, and there's some amazing things happening in the Valley. So please think of me when you're doing any sort of food security, food literacy programming, and send me an email, and I'm really happy to participate any way I can.
Thanks, Kaylee. And yeah, Kaylee's been kind of in the scene for quite a while, so it's going to be nice to have you right here on board with everyone. Why don't you just pass it off to another person and everyone introduce themselves and then pass it along?
Okay, so to my right, I see Lisa Aylard.
And
hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a tickle in my throat here. Lisa Aylard, oh, sorry, just had something in the oven here as well. Lisa Aylard, Stonehaven Farm. I'm the president of the Alberni Valley Farmers Institute. Excuse me. I sit on a various other amount of committees. We're trying to get the Farmers Institute up and running again. It's been kind of dormant throughout COVID and stuff. So some things happening here. We have a 178-acre farm. We run Black Angus beef and sheep, and I got a few honeybees out here.
thanks, Lisa. Do you want to pass it on?
I can't see who's all here.
Okay, we're going to pick Tom then.
Okay, there you go.
Good morning, everyone. Tom Odell, regional agrologist, North Vancouver Island, and my other hat is I have a small wholesale nursery business with my wife up here in Merville. Good to see everyone today. I will have to bow off at 10:30. I've got a site visit coming up.
Thanks, Tom. Where's it going?
Oh, Amy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Needham. I'm the sustainability planner for the ACRD, looking after such wonderful topics as agriculture, food security, climate action, and a lot of water stuff. Everyone's very concerned about water. So I've been at the ACRD since January of 2023. It's just going on almost a year and a half, and moved to Port Alberni area from Northern Alberta in 2021. Super happy to be here because they just got snow last night and we have cherry blossoms here. So, and I will pass it on to Anna Lewis next.
I didn't miss that when I moved back here from Alberta. My time there was done. I'm Anna Lewis. I am the manager of the Alberni Valley Food Security Society. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell. And I'll pass it over to Patty.
I'm Patty Radcliffe Palmer. I've lived in the Valley since 1993. I'm quite involved in getting 4-H up and running again in the Valley. We kind of fell apart during COVID, and this is sort of the year that we're trying to start rebuilding. So hopefully things will continue. And I also have a little hobby farm out in Cherry Creek. I've got some laying hen pullets out in the barn at the moment, which is a lot of fun. So I'll pass it on to Kristen.
Good morning, everyone. I'm the admin support for the ADC Agricultural Development Committee with the ACRD. Been in Port Alberni for about 18 years, and we have a few chickens and yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot to pass it along. Helen.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Helen Zanetti. I'm the C70 Pacific Rim Board of Education trustee representative here on this committee. I really enjoy it. Born and bred here, left for a long time, came back. I like farming. I have a little garden. My parents had, I say cows still because it's cattle sound like a herd. So they had some cows and chickens and rabbits and all that stuff. Yeah, learning lots, always here to help. Welcome. Thank you for having me. Have a great day, everyone. Oh, sorry, I'm going to pass it on to Fred.
Good morning. My name is Fred Boyko. I'm the electoral area director for Beaufort. Got an acreage out here, grew up here, left, went to Alberta, came back like everybody else on this panel. And I am a professional engineer by trade. Thank you. I'm going to pass on to somebody. I forgot. Colin, I don't think you've been up yet. Thank you.
Hey, great. Thanks, Fred. Good morning, everyone. My name is Colin Cosman. I'm a land use forester with Mosaic for the last 3 years, 3 or 4 years, actually. Coming to you from the territory of the Comox Nation today. I'm a registered professional forester, registered biology technologist, and utility specialist. My role with Mosaic is really all about community engagement, certainly with local government and regional government and different groups. But above and beyond that, I get involved with lots of different topics, working with my colleague David on watershed work and some of our forestry activities in different watersheds. I'm very active with access agreements and recreation on Mosaic lands, including designing and overseeing the construction of our newest 27 site campground at Loon Lake, and certainly a little bit of involvement with the different First Nations that Mosaic works with. So thank you for the invite for today, and I'll pass it over to David.
Morning, David Belesne, Director of Climate Watersheds with Mosaic. I'm calling in from the Nanaimo territory in Nanaimo, and yeah, we'll get into more about what I do around watersheds and climate later today, so look forward to the conversations. I guess I'll pass it to who hasn't gone, Pat maybe, or yeah, Pat. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. Pat Deacon, City of Port Alberni, Economic Development. I believe that it's critical for the community to be focused on food safety, security, supply issues. So that's both terrestrial and aquaculture activities. For myself, I've got a yard with in the middle of the city with a bunch of raised beds, and I'm not mowing the dandelions at the moment to provide feed for bees.
Yay!
So, and given that, is there anybody that hasn't been introduced?
Just Heather.
Heather,
yeah, I realized
so-
I skipped right over me.
Okay, Heather.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, I'm Heather Shobe. I work on contract supporting agriculture for the ACRD. And I also have a little farm here in the Alberni Valley, and I'm your chairperson now for this committee. So thanks, everyone. I love seeing just the diversity of people here, and interesting how, you know, we're always trying to get like primary producers on this committee and to attend, and it's been a kind of a difficult thing in some ways to bring people out, partly because people are outside doing things in their fields, but also all of these other people and organizations that are here really are important in supporting those producers. And it's interesting to see how many little micro producers we have here too. So can we have a motion to approve the agenda? You would have received that via email. Helen, is there a seconder? Lisa's hand is up. All in favor? Or is there anyone opposed? Let's do it that way. All right, so motion is approved. And declarations. So this is a new thing. Are there any declarations of conflict of interests for any of the items on the agenda? Okay, no declarations seen. And then you also received the minutes from the meeting on March 19th. Can we have a motion that those minutes are adopted? Fred. And do we have a seconder? Helen, thank you. Is anyone opposed? All right, so the motion to approve the minutes of the ABC meeting of March 19th is passed. And I just see Erica showed up. So Erica, why don't you give yourself a little introduction as well?
Hi everyone, sorry I'm a little bit late. My name's Erica Gold and I lead the West Coast Food Security Initiative on the West Coast in the Clayoquot region with the Clayoquot Biosphere Trust and Island Health. Thanks.
All right, thanks Erica, it's good to see you. So yeah, we're gonna start off today with a delegation from Mosaic Forest Management. Colin and David, I'm really happy to see you here again. I know you've been active with the Council for Agricultural Water Supply, and so it's great to have you come and share today for the Agricultural Development Committee. So we have about 10 minutes with a little flexibility there, and we'll just let you go at it. Thanks.
Sure. Thanks, Heather. And we had chimed in earlier if we could get 15 minutes or maybe even a few more minutes, if that's okay. It really depends on the agenda. So
there's no issues with extra time.
Okay. Wonderful.
Go ahead, and because if there's lots of questions, I don't want to throttle that really. So
okay, sounds good. Well, I'll do my best to share my screen here. Hopefully everybody can see that. Everybody seeing my screen?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, great. And hopefully I have the correct presentation up. So I'll provide an overview just about Mosaic and start with that. Can share some information about planning and our professionals. Certainly David will cover watershed management, climate and our Big Coast Forest Climate Initiative, and then we'll have some time for questions, hopefully. So with that, just wanted to start with who is Mosaic. We certainly let our values guide everything we do. Number one, our highest priority is safety and wellness. So that really does guide everything we do every day, every meeting, every field day, every tailgate meeting. Second value is really focused on sustainability and being responsible and having science-based environmental management. Next is integrity. So really doing the right thing and holding ourselves accountable. People are our huge value in terms of, our organization and diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we have a new policy and an embedded strategy there in the last few years. So lots of work in that area. And then lastly, just want to mention superior performance. So really creating value through everything we do with excellence, innovation, and continuous improvement. Just touching on 2023 key achievements. In 2022, we were recognized as a BC Top Employer, and that happened again in 2023. So says a lot about our organization. Like I mentioned, we have the diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy. So really important there. In terms of our sponsorship and donations in our organized, our community donations, last year we donated over $750,000 to various communities throughout Vancouver Island, including the Alberni Valley. That also includes supporting wildlife and fish habitat improvement through the Pacific Salmon Foundation and we're certainly a longtime supporter of the Marmot Recovery Foundation, so decades there. We've also been very active supporting First Nations with scholarships and training programs as well. Responsible stewardship involves environmental certification. Just want to really focus on a few things here. We've just received gold level with the Progressive Aboriginal Relations certification. We're the only timberlands management company in Canada to hold that gold level certification. So really important with all the relationships we have with Indigenous groups and First Nations groups. The other certification I want to highlight here is our Sustainable Forestry Initiative certification. So that really does guide a lot of our activities from a landscape level, but also on the ground level as well. Just in terms of SFI and Mosaic and our objectives, really highlighting that one of the main objectives is around water resources and managing that at a landscape level and a local level as well in terms of wetlands and riparian measures based on a number of things, including soils and terrain and vegetation, ecological function and harvest systems. So we certainly have BMPs and have provincial guidelines and other things that come into play here, but we definitely have a real focus on managing water resources. A lot of folks think that because much of our operations happen on our private managed forest lands, that legislation does not apply. But just wanted to list here a few that do: the Water Sustainability Act, the Fisheries Act, the Drinking Water Protection Act, and then several others here. So really over 30 do apply to us in our activities on private managed forest lands, above and beyond our environmental certification requirements, and also our best management practices and guidelines that we follow. Watershed fact sheets. So we do have the community drinking watershed fact sheet available on our website. Just wanted to highlight that here. That really does outline all the things we're required to do under legislation. Also, what we do and what we're required to do under certification, but also, all the work that we do with water purveyors and different groups, including several groups in the Alberni Valley. So lots of information here. We also have some additional information on our website around watersheds and fact sheets and a few good videos as well. So if anybody's interested, the link is on the bottom right. So I just want to take a few minutes and talk about planning and assessments and all the work that goes into that process. We have a lot of professionals involved on our land base with planning and assessments. This ranges from registered professional foresters to registered forest technologists. We have registered professional biologists and RB techs as well, but certainly have hydrologists, terrain specialists, and engineers. So, kind of a long list, but really important just to highlight the professional oversight that goes into all our plans and our activities on our land base. In terms of checklists, so when our area planners and professionals are looking at either road construction or harvest in an area, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of items that they have to work through in terms of checklists and making sure that the values are being appropriately managed. So this is just a screenshot of several of the items that our area planners considered, but it's certainly extensive. Everything from managing legal lines, karst features, wildlife features, proper stream assessments and crossings, and Windthrow considerations, along with a great focus around safety. So just want to highlight those as well. In terms of outreach and communication, this is just an example from the Comox Valley, where we've provided an information handout to the local community for some of our upcoming activities, and just a really informative way of sharing information generally with the local public, along with the local government as well. I don't have a screenshot here, but we are also very active, obviously, with face-to-face engagement and sharing information through consultation. I mentioned the water purveyors. We're sharing information in different ways there, but we're also posting notification of activities information on site and sharing that with folks before we start up as well. So. And then also just wanted to mention all the great work that we do around drinking watersheds or in drinking watersheds. Again, I can't put enough emphasis on the professional prescriptions and the efforts that we make in terms of protecting drinking water. But we've also found with our professional plans and the training that our staff and our contractors go through around erosion and sediment control practices and best management practices, that we're finding that our operators are now becoming very proficient and being really professional operators of equipment, but also understanding the plans and executing the plans based on the information we're providing and the oversight that we have by the use of environmental monitors in some of our projects. The photo, the largest photo here on the screen is adjacent to a water intake in the village of Cumberland. We reconstructed this road in the summer, I think in 2022. So certainly successful activities there. A couple of the other photos are around Bainbridge Lake. So a year and a half or so ago, we successfully had road construction and harvesting activities, and had lots of engagement with the city of Port Alberni water purveyors in that area. So just wanted to share some examples there. With that, I'll pass it over to David.
Thanks, Colin. And yeah, I'll whip through watersheds and climate in 7 minutes, and I can probably do an hour session on this, but I'll just hit the highlights and hope get some questions from this talk. Colin already talked about the legislation. I don't want to belabor it, but being a professional engineer, professional forester, we have to obviously follow the law, but then there's the Professional Governance Act and a lot of guidelines around how we assess hydrologic and geomorphic risk, how we deal with crossings, specifically site level crossings, and how we incorporate climate change into those practices. And I just wanted to highlight LIDAR in the last 10, 20 years has been kind of game changing for us from a water management perspective. And when it comes to the Alberni Valley, we have now 2 sets of detailed LIDAR that's really helping us understand terrain and watershed change. And 20 years of detailed watershed assessments that have shown us that we have improving watershed conditions from previous harvesting. That's not to say we don't have more to do and we don't need to continue to adapt our practices. And that's me standing next to a water level meter. And, as we move forward in a changing climate, low flows has become more of a focus, especially in my 20, 30 years. We talk about low flows a lot more than we used to. So that ties into the next slide, Colin, around just watershed level planning, work with regions around how do we manage for both peak flows and low flows, what kind of models can we apply, and how do we think about what the changes are happening to the hydrological cycle. So really, I have a PhD working for me, really focusing downscale models for us. So regionally, what impacts are we seeing at the best scale we can with the data we have, and how do we improve that with the weather stations and all the network we have on the ground. So really that intensification of the hydrological cycle. We're going to see more drier summers and we're going to see more wetter winters, and that rainfall doesn't come at the right time for us. So how do we manage for those more intense cycles? And that for us is looking at our equivalent clear cut area, so our spatial rate of hydrological recovery and how we manage for those impacts to potential peak flows from our harvest. And then from a low flows perspective, what does that different stand level ages do with respect to evapotranspiration, and how do we manage that? So that's really two important models that are kind of core in our business that kind of run some of those certification objectives and indicators that Colin talked to earlier. Next slide, Colin. And just talking about more research. So a lot of research has been done in the past from Ministry of Forests and others. We would like to see more research, collaborative research. So one of the things Mosaic has done in partnership with Manulife and Western Forest Products is, and we're looking to bring in a third party academic institution like UBC or UVic to help solidify the research and present more peer-reviewed research. But we've done 20 different watersheds across Vancouver Island, very intense sampling across reaches, looking at a variety of indicators of aquatic ecosystem health. And so we're really excited about looking and using this research, really understanding riparian health and management practices in these watersheds in a changing climate, and what we can do to help improve aquatic ecosystem health. So interesting research that we'll be able to share with partners that have interest in this. Next slide, Colin. Just going to cover some climate change and mitigation work that we're working on. Climate smart forestry has become a real focus of ours, a real focus of mine and Colin's, and so it's a new objective and indicator in our SFI, and so for us, it's really about how do we, maximize the sequestration in our working forest? How do we reduce our harvest in our most sensitive ecosystems and store that carbon more long term? And how do we keep the fires out? And so that's kind of the emphasis, and really focusing on how do we adapt now moving forward, and how do we mitigate, which is reducing our emissions ourselves, both from our land base and our tailpipe from our equipment, and how do we increase the net sink of that working forest for us. So that's a real focus of ours. A lot of objectives and indicators focused around that, and new opportunities as we focus on this. So next slide, Colin. And this was one of the opportunities that came out as we looked harder at our carbon footprint, what we can do, and our work in the communities. We are initiated the largest voluntary carbon project in Canada. We're a leader in this space right now, and we're hoping to see more carbon projects start on the coast from our initiative. So this is 40,000 hectares of improved forest management, which is about 80% of these forests are old forests, so over 120 years old. So we've really focused on those high elevation forests where we have the most impact on the hydrological cycle, and obviously drinking watersheds and sensitive areas that Colin works in. We put into the Big Coast Forest Climate Initiative and have reduced our harvest significantly, and we go through audits every year to generate what is now carbon credits that we are able to sell to companies looking to decarbonize their footprint that don't have a land base like this, and want to start to make these investments into nature. And so we're seeing a growing interest in agriculture and forestry, the nature-based solution space, and there isn't a compliance market here. There is lots of compliance carbon markets in California, Europe, and more coming up every week, it seems like. And I know Canada and BC are working on that, but it's not there yet. So 4 years ago, we made this decision to go into voluntary carbon, and we're kind of in our second year of development. And we have carbon auditors running in the field right now, just confirming carbon and measuring if fire had any impacts and all those other things that we have to manage all those risks within this carbon program. So a key aspect is we made it a group project, so other landowners with smaller Holdings could come in. It's really hard to initiate a project, a lot of capital costs and inventory and work. So we're working with neighbors, with private land and First Nation partners to look at connecting corridors and doing more of this type of improved forest management. And I guess one more thing to add is that there's an additional certification around our SDGs, so tied to water and some of those things. Voluntary buyers want to see that there's more than just a carbon reduction, that you're doing more within the community. So we have a number of initiatives related to this this program that are tied to these SDGs. So we're being audited to additional things related to our working communities and with water. So exciting. Next slide there, Colin. Yeah, and just a couple extension partners that are helping us communicate carbon and show meaningful impact to this initiative. Is revenue is being directed to the Pacific Salmon Foundation for Marine Climate Research, and a number of programs popping up from that funding, and the West Coast Indigenous IPCA, Indigenous Protected and Conserved Area Support Program and Innovation Program, really working with 31 First Nations that overlap with the Big Coast areas, and they are helping us engage, looking at more longer-term research and more Indigenous-led research on what does longer-term protection mean, and doing more potential IPCA designations as we move forward with this relationship. So that's two exciting partners that are part of our initiative. And I think just highlight some of the areas, and we can provide more detailed mapping, but it's about 8,000 hectares in the ACRD, and doesn't show China Creek and the Cameron Valley, but yeah, significant area in the ACRD. And so the area is from Sooke to Campbell River and up into Haida Gwaii, and a variety of areas there. You can learn more on bigcoastforest.com, and we'll continue to communicate and engage and work with the community on what this is. And yeah, if you have any questions, reach out anytime.
All right, thanks, Colin and David. Always great to hear from you, and I always end up with so many questions and things to look into and things to research. But yeah, I'd like to ask for questions from the rest of us. Fred, I see your hand. Go ahead.
So thank you, and thanks for the presentation, guys. One quick question that needs to be asked that's not necessarily forestry related, but it is agricultural food security related, is that this town's been shut off a couple times in the past year due to events beyond our control. And one of the ways out of here is the Horn Lake Trail that was cut off, and other roads that are controlled / owned by Mosaic and other parties. Is there any plans moving forward to get those things opened up for the benefit of everybody in the valley? Thank you.
I can answer that. Thanks, Fred. So Mosaic does sit on the Transportation Advisory Committee right now. I sit on that myself. So we're certainly part of the conversations around the Cameron Bluffs fire that happened from an illegal campground, or pardon me, an illegal camping fire, I guess, during a fire ban. But we're certainly engaged with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. They're really leading the work around, secondary routes out of the Alberni Valley, whether it be permanent routes or emergency routes. That's I think the process that's really leading right now and exploring opportunities for secondary and secondary routes. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Is there any timeline on any decisions, or is that just we've been talking about it for over 100 years in the valley here, and nothing has changed. Just wonder if there's ever going to be any momentum moving forward. Thanks.
Yeah, of course, it's a good question. So I know that the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure does have timelines. Just from memory, I think they're having an external consultant summarize different routes and provide a report possibly by the end of this year or early next year. But again, that committee is really driving the process, and Mosaic is at the table collaborating where we need to, and certainly working with MOT.
Perfect. Thanks for the update, Colin.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks.
Pat, I see your hand up.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks, gentlemen, for the presentation. I have two questions. And I'll preface the first one by saying for a good number of years, we've been really concerned about the temperatures in the Somas, Stamp, and Sprout River system. And I'm wondering if there's anything that you could contribute to a better understanding of what we're dealing with there and how we might address it. I mean, we've been having some challenges bringing federal decision makers to the table with funding for some solutions. And I'm just thinking that maybe more data is a prelude to that.
Is there a second question too, or that?
Yeah, it's unrelated to the first.
Okay, I'll answer the first one then. But Pat, I think more data. I think the RDN presented what they've done around community science monitoring around water quality, and we're doing similar in the Cowichan, in the Coxsila around water conductivity and temperature with citizen monitoring to really understand, so I think that's going to drive some good decisions and changes and understanding, as a collaborative, in the watershed industry and community where these sensitive systems are and where temperature we might be able to have some impacts, or look at beavers and storing water and influence of these different things that we can look at. So there are some things happening in some of these other watersheds, and it's being driven by data. If we have good data, and Mosaic is always willing to put letters together to support, temperature loggers and other things on Mosaic lands to support that.
Okay, thanks. I will pursue that with the nations, because that's a huge concern for them. The other question was around the Big Coast Forest Climate Initiative. Is Bainbridge Lake one of the areas where the logging is deferred, or?
That's right. There was a bit of harvest in and around Bainbridge, but we've done a larger riparian network and worked with the city on just doing some tweaks here and there and making sure that was well communicated where the reserve is on Big Coast. But there is areas around Bainbridge and in Bainbridge watershed. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Is there any other questions for David or Colin? Wow, it's like you're getting off easy. Oh, there's Erica.
Hi, I do have a question, or maybe it's more just getting some resources. It's great to connect with you, and obviously you're coming to the agricultural group around food, and working with the Clackahoe Biosphere on the coast, it's great to see the Sustainable Development Goals connection. I appreciate that. And just so you know where I'm coming from, I work really closely with the IPCA work and the Assam Block Foundation here on the coast. And I did notice in your presentation, you didn't really speak to food security and food sovereignty anywhere, although this comes up in our IPCA work all the time, and how valuable our forest resources are to current food supplies in the face of climate change and to helping to revitalize traditional food access. So I was wondering if you could tell me about any policies or projects or work you know of within Mosaic that kind of looks at food and access to food within Mosaic sites.
That's a great question, and it gets me thinking about our engagement process with Eli and that foundation. How do we tie some of these things together a little bit more? And a lot of it is around salmon, and that, you know, so a lot of that focus around water and salmon, that connection. But I think there's probably a greater interest in beyond that, and how do we establish those priorities with the First Nation through the IPCA support program. So I think a lot of that next steps, Erica, is where does food security sit on these on the list of values within these areas, and how do we start to prioritize the research and work on that? And maybe Colin can speak more on the just access and some of the work we do in general. But yeah, that's something we should think about it more, because I know Eli has been talking about eco-villages and food security, and how do we talk about this more? And it's new to us as a forestry company a bit to connect that.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot. So, but I hear from Eli all the time. So I see from your, maybe what you had to say from your perspective from Mosaic.
Erica, thanks for the question. If I understand it correctly, you know, we certainly work with the different First Nations groups in and around our operating areas. And maybe just an example for the Alberni Valley is the Hupitchseth First Nation, probably not today because it's warming up, but has certainly spent time tapping maples on our private managed forest lands for their business. So, you know, that's kind of related, but, you know, when we're engaged with the different First Nations groups, if there's an interest for gathering food or bark or whatever it is, we're certainly working with them to support that. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erica. Amy?
Thanks, Heather. One of our primary producer members couldn't be here today, but they did forward me an update. And just with regards to your presentation today, they wanted me to relay concerns are, as always, damages to water intakes and sources by upstream logging. So I was just wondering if you can provide, just for the upcoming season, kind of a broad overview of any specific activities happening along the Beauforts or along areas adjacent to ALR, large tracts of ALR land, just off the top of your head, or if you can point me towards where that information can be found on the website, and then we can disseminate it.
Right. So maybe I can chime in, and David, you can add anything if you like, but certainly when we're having forestry activities anywhere near water intakes, we're reaching out to adjacent neighbors to provide updates and share information. You know, maybe I'll just say over the last probably 2 years, it's been, we've certainly been engaged with the Agriculture Committee, and I think one of our last visits was out in the field at the back end of Beaver Creek. So really valuable there to just have all those connection points and have the conversations. But you know, maybe the best thing is, you know, certainly if anyone does have questions, they can reach out to me directly. I've provided my cell number and email to folks. I know folks on the call here today have it, but you know, that's a big part of my role at Mosaic, is sharing information and connecting with people. Just specific to your question, Amy, about upcoming plans. I'm not aware of any activities coming up during 2024 that is, you know, really close to the vicinity of anybody's water intake or close to property lines or anything like that. But our plan would certainly be to reach out if we did have activities coming up. So yeah, I hope that helps.
That does, thank you. Would it be okay with you, just based on the offer that you just made, for people to contact you if we included your email in our minutes and then
Yes,
it would be
please,
documented? Was
please
that okay?
do.
So then people can reach out? Awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you
that's
so
great.
much.
I'd really appreciate that. And, maybe I'll just share, I think it was, late last year, I did reach out to 3 or 4 different folks in the Cherry Creek, Beaver Creek, excuse me, area that had questions from a few of the calls we've been on. And so, yeah, I appreciate you sharing my contact information. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lisa, and then Anna.
Yeah, I'd just like to say there's also woodlot, different woodlots along the Beaufort as well. And Todd Thompson is the guy that's doing those. And he's been really good too of contacting local area producers if he intends to be in the vicinity. And he usually gives a lot of notice, and invites the producers to go out for a walk and check out just what he's going to do. And he asks for any concerns and stuff like that. I do believe that the companies are making more of an effort to find out the concerns, because we did have some issues out here years ago, especially out here on our place, and that may be why some of the other neighbors are a little concerned after they saw the experiences that some of us went through. But great presentation, guys. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate what Lisa said, is that it would be actually really awesome. And I know when I was doing the council for the agricultural use of water, it was like, be wonderful to have an actual map of the Beaufort with where the Hupechesset is, where Mosaic is, and where Todd is, because there's a lot of confusion for people and everyone always assumes it's just Mosaic. I know I walked the log train trail from my family farm with my mom a couple days ago, and we walked about 10 kilometers. There's a lot of new flagging tape on the tail end, like where my family farm is, and even up by our water intake. And it was like, I know it's not Mosaic, but who is it? So, and I'm pretty sure it's the Hupechesset. So I think there needs to be a rounding out of who's at the table, because it's not just Mosaic, right? So
yes, thanks, Anna.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate that that's happening in a lot of these areas, that when it comes to collaborative watershed planning, need to discuss with everybody who's at that watershed or has potential to have an influence with land use change, agriculture and forestry. So it's a good plan.
Well, thanks, everyone. And that kind of ties into the Council for Agricultural Water Supply, and maybe that's something there that needs to be focused on a bit more locally, to include that and maybe even do that mapping, potentially part of that group. Are there any other questions or comments? I guess it's not maybe a question, but I suppose one thing I've noticed, and I've heard you guys over the last couple of years, and I really do appreciate and recognize all that you've been sharing. When I think about the regulations and, that you're listing that you have to adhere to, there's always a lot about drinking water protection, ecosystem protection. And similar to what Erica was saying, I think it would be interesting to hear maybe what kinds of regulations or processes that could be embedded explicitly within your policies to support agriculture and food harvesting, and potentially associated with proximity to ALR lands as well. So there's the water intakes for agricultural land, but also the integrity of those lands as well. So I think it's just something to think about in terms of it's that narrative around how important agriculture and food security are, and how we can embed that in policies. And it's not just in forestry, but we've kind of been doing this work in other disciplines as well. So just, I'm not sure if that's a question or maybe something to think about. And I know you guys just continuing to participate in these meetings and getting so involved in the community is really meaning a lot. So getting the language it's explicitly somewhere might be a good thing to move forward on as well.
Yeah, I appreciate your thoughts on that too. And when I think about carbon and nature and biodiversity and forestry, and agriculture, there is an opportunity to incentivize landowners to make changes through these mechanisms. And so whether it's regulation or just, voluntary incentives or local initiatives, there is probably opportunity to make change. It's exciting that there's opportunity now, and regulation could do that, but also I think voluntarily, landowners like us with carbon are showing you can make changes if there's an incentive, whether it's water or carbon, as a measure. And so yeah, interesting thought, Heather.
Heather, I just want to say thanks for bringing that up, and I certainly feel the again, all the meetings and engagement and conversations over the last year or two have certainly been valuable, and I think obviously continuing those conversations and open lines are good moving forward.
Great, thanks. And I see Lisa's hand going up again.
Thanks, guys. It just kind of came to you. I'm just curious, with climate change and all the rest of it, I'm just curious about logging activities on the snow line. Like if we retain trees to keep the temperature lower, then we have slower snow melt. And so I'm just curious if there's been any changes to that kind of stuff instead of just taking it all down, or if certain areas are left to keep the temperature down, keep those snowpacks.
I'll just speak to it quickly that, yeah, that's part of the research, is understanding and understanding our impacts on snow and rain on snow and rain zones, and then how that's changing. And we are actually, driving to more of a rain dominated watersheds, and that is happening. So that just changes things, and what can we influence in certain areas. And so we are looking at that and thinking about different practices like thinning and the conservation project, like I talked about. So yeah, that is a big focus of ours, is understanding that hydrological impact.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Colin and David, again. Hope you feel good. And it is great to see the conversations happening and some positivity, and particularly less of the antagonism that I will say that has been heard in the past. So it's a good shift. I'm not sure if you're going to stick around, although I expect probably not, but thanks again for coming today. And would it be possible to share a copy of your presentation so we can include that in the minutes as well?
Oh, you bet. Would you like me to email you a copy?
Sure, that sounds good. And I'll pass it over to Amy.
Wonderful. Okay, sounds good. And thanks for everyone's time today, and thanks for the extra time as well.
Awesome. Thank you. It was good to see you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Yes, more than 10 minutes, but that's a really important conversation. I know there's always questions about it. So, okay, we'll move on to correspondence for information. Amy.
Nothing in particular I wanted to highlight, because I always think it's always such good stuff. I wanted to include a copy of the news release on the Food Security Emergency Planning Grant that was awarded. It was actually picked up by the AV News, and they ran a little news clip on it. So I wanted to make sure that was included here for everyone's reading enjoyment. And also wanted to draw everyone's attention to a news release that I included from the provincial government that might look a little unrelated to this committee, but it mentions the BC flood strategy. And so the Ministry of Water, Lands and Resource Stewardship, who has been invited to be a delegation at the May Ag Development Committee meeting to talk about their watershed security strategy. They were actually authoring 3 large water-related strategies to kind of outline their directions over the next years. And one of them was the flood strategy. The flood strategy started, it was kind of triggered by the flooding events in the Lower Mainland that affected a lot of producers and a lot of food production and a lot of infrastructure, and caused a lot of damage during 2021. And so now it's been launched. And so I just wanted to draw everyone's attention to the fact that the strategy is out, and it really indicates the province's directions and their priorities with regards to flood management ongoing. So that's the one strategy. I'll also mention that the watershed security strategy, again, they will be delegating to this committee next month and to talk about that and where it's at. It was supposed to be launched this spring, but nothing yet. Hopefully an update will be coming from them. And then the third strategy is called the Coastal Marine Strategy. And that one, we just received a draft for local government review and technical response. So I'll be working on that in the background, but the intentions paper for that strategy is out and it is public. So I encourage everyone to please take a look on the provincial government website and just search Coastal Marine Strategy and take a look at the intentions paper, because as it so happens, the ACRD is all three of these things: susceptible to floods, has a lot of water and watersheds, and is along a coast. So definitely will be things in there pertaining to this area for sure. That's all I want to say about the information items. Definitely take a look at them.
Amy, I have a question in terms of those strategies, and you said that the ACRD is responding to the request for feedback from local governments. And I'm just wondering if this committee has any, if people from this committee, as a committee of the local government, if they had any feedback to share, that you could consider including that in the ACRD's response. I'm not sure how that works.
It's going to the board. I'm doing up a board report for the next board meeting for their information. So it'll go that route. But I don't know if everyone knows this, but there's an engagement website that the provincial government maintains called EngageGov, and highly recommend you subscribe, because every opportunity for public consultation on everything that they do is posted there, and then they send out notifications and it just comes to your inbox. So either bookmark it or sign up for updates, because then you don't have to worry that you're missing out on a chance for the public consultation or the public engagement side of things that they generally have on all of their big projects. There's one right now, Erica, you probably know about it. I noticed there was one on Clayoquot. Clayoquot sounds something to do with land. I forget what it is, but I was looking up the coastal marine stuff yesterday, and I saw that there was one for Clayoquot Sound. It looks like it's open for people to comment on.
Yeah, it has to do with the forest management.
Yeah, so there's stuff on there. That's how they communicate with people, and that's how they communicate with the public and ask for public engagement on things. And so it has a subscription service. It's just nice. You don't have to remember to look at it. You just sign up and they send you the updates, and then you get to weigh in on stuff. The public engagement portion on these strategies, as far as I can tell, happened like way before I was even at the ACRD. It was like 2022 or something like that, because they've been in the works for a long time. But there'll be more stuff upcoming, I'm sure, that they'll be asking for public engagement on.
All right, thanks, Amy. Can you send the address for that link for the?
I'll put it in the minutes.
Okay,
I'll make sure it's included in the minutes, because then anyone who missed the meeting can access it as well.
Great. So those were information A to D. Can we get a motion that the ADC receives the items A to D for information? Helen, thank you. And a seconder? Somebody second the motion. We've received the information. Thank you, Fred. Anyone opposed? None seen. Okay, motion carried. Thank you. And then next we have a request for decision about the new terms of reference for the Coastal Foods Roundtable. And go ahead, Amy.
Awesome, thank you. So on your agenda, if you actually click on the heading in the agenda front page for a request for decision, it takes you it jumps you in the agenda right down to the report that I did for the Coastal Foods Roundtable terms of reference update. So just to give a bit of background, all the information's in the report, but just to give everyone a background, I might not have had a chance to read it. The Coastal Agricultural Roundtable was developed out of the coastal addendum to the Alberni Valley Agricultural Plan in 2018. It was one of the main recommendations through that addendum. just to deal with agricultural issues and food production and non-traditional agriculture that happens out on the West Coast and with First Nations, because there's no ALR land out on the West Coast of the ACRD, but lots of food production and lots of food harvesting happens there. And the food system is very important, obviously, to rural and remote communities. And so in looking over all of the different committees and working groups that my position became a facilitator for, the Coastal Agricultural Roundtable, was noted that the terms of reference hadn't been looked at since 2019 was the most recent one that I could find. So 5 years, probably time for a refresh, and just to acknowledge the fact that I was hired and my position exists and I'm involved with the committee and stuff like that. And then also to one of the main changes was it was struck as a select committee, which has a time frame on it associated with it. So a select committee of the board, ACRD board, with regards to the coastal addendum. But when the time comes to look at dissolving a committee that has a timeline associated with it, that was definitely not a desire of the board or staff. No one wanted to see that this end, because the work that's been done through it has been so good and so integral in the West Coast. And so it's been moved into a status called a permanent working group. So less formal, not hidebound by the procedures bylaw, which requires things like we're meeting today, it's live streamed and things like that. It allows more of the grassroots in the field, informal meetings that work so much better for a group of people that are very diverse and very busy. And so any recommendations or lobbying that group wants to send up will come through this committee, through the Agricultural Development Committee, to make sure that it's duly recorded and it's duly discussed and things like that, and then potentially funneled through the board. But the working group status allows you, if you want to, you can meet in a garden and have a work bee out on the West Coast, because people are interested in things like small scale farming or small scale greenhouses and things like that, or non-traditional agriculture and indigenous agriculture like aquaculture or marine initiatives or foraging or harvesting. So hopefully everyone had a chance to look through the terms of reference. I don't want to go through it line by line, but if there's any questions, please don't hesitate to ask before our discussion. Lisa?
Were you able to contact any of the groups that you specified get together to talk about agriculture and stuff?
Yeah, they're already included. The groups that were listed, or it was copied, as far as I can tell. Heather might correct me, or Anna, copied from the old terms of reference. I don't think we added anyone. Did we add anyone to the group? Heather was with me at the meeting.
No, we did not add anyone, and just to let you know that this group met on April 3rd, and it was about, was it 12, 13 people, and it was very well representative of the membership, and they all agreed to the working group and the terms of reference.
Awesome.
Thank you, Erica.
All right. Yes, good point. Thanks, Erica. The group itself did meet, and this is the terms of reference that they approved. So that this is basically a procedural step that now, being a working group, that decision comes through the ADC, then we'll go to the board. So could we get a motion that the ADC adopt the Coastal Foods Roundtable's terms of reference as updated? Helen, and seconded by Fred. Is there anyone opposed? All right, motion carried. Thank you. And thanks for doing the work to get that sorted out, Amy. It did feel, I was at that last meeting, and it felt like there's some good direction and lots of engagement and involvement on the coast. So, all right, on to reports. 10:35, so we have another 45 minutes and enough time for everyone to weigh in. We'll start with the ACRD. Go ahead, Amy.
Oh, mercy. You get tired of hearing me talk. So what do I have on my report? I am pleased to announce that our meat processing fundamentals course was a resounding success. We had a full class of 8 people in the course, and we had a full class of 8 students complete the course. And a further 29 boxes of meat was processed, and it is awaiting distribution through various food programs in partnership with the Alberni Valley Food Security Society. So we're super happy about that. Sometimes protein can be hard to come by, and so it's nice to see that amount of meat disseminated out into the community through this program. As a kind of an addendum to that, while the program was going on, there was actually discussion bantered about as a request for a greenhouse grower training. Participants of other North Island College programs are interested in this, and we're wondering if there would be an opportunity to partner to run one similar to the meat processing fundamentals and seafood processing programs that they had. So I just wanted to pose it to the committee if this is something that merits direction to me for looking into it more, a greenhouse growers program. The proposal from NIC, the preliminary proposal is it would be a bit of a shorter program, not an 8-week or 6-week, it would be a 4-week program focused on greenhouse growing. Yep, Fred?
I think greenhouses would be awesome. It'd be good to have it so it's for working people, like have it start at 5 o'clock or 4:30 or 6 o'clock or some kind of thing like that. So that it could be open to more people, but I think it'd be good.
This one would be, the one that's being proposed would be similar for the Canadian Workforce Response Grant. So it would be the funded one for immediate filling of vacancies in areas around the Alberni Valley, such as Rage's Farm, who's always looking for people. I will say the Alberni Valley Food Security Society is hosting gardening workshops open to the general public. So if you check out their website, I don't know if Kristen, can we add in their website into the minutes, and hopefully people can check it out. They are hosting a series of workshops ongoing here monthly, I believe.
Yeah, it's the first Sunday of every month. I definitely would applaud going forward with a greenhouse program. I think it's super important. And Rage's probably has an empty greenhouse that can be utilized. If not, the Hupetcheset farm, I don't even think they're going to run that farm this year because they don't have anyone to do it. So, I mean, there's two greenhouses on that property. So if you had, and it's a central location on a bus route. So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, those are good, really good arguments for getting more trained employees also, because I know that's that's the main focus of the grant is getting, I believe from that grant is getting more trained employees. Also, I just want to point out how important or how often greenhouses have come up from some of the people out on the coast and from some of the remote communities and nations. So that's the biggest interest, is the skill development in greenhouses. However, like Fred kind of mentioned, it's very challenging also to get people from a remote community to come into Port Alberni for a full month. And so it's worth looking at how a program could be held out on the coast, is one idea, or even have portions delivered online or be done with timing that could be accessible to people. There's a huge need and desire out there as well. So.
And oh, there's two.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I see Lisa's hand up.
I concur with Fred. I do think it's important that we make it so that everybody can attend. Because let's face it, a lot of farmers can't even afford to pay themselves, let alone pay an employee. So I think the more people that we have growing food in smaller batches and that, I think is important. And we've recently seen the Vegetable Market Commission expand their mandate across the province. I wasn't aware of their regulations as to how much product you have to become licensed under as well. So I think a greenhouse course is definitely important.
Thanks, Lisa. And go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, so my other thought is, as we look at climate change, I mean, holy man, my fans in my greenhouses are already going, right? As soon as it hits 37 degrees in my greenhouse, the fans come up, the baffles open. But there's something to be said for overwintering crops, which if it's raining more and more here, well, that's a bit of a problem in your fields. But some of the most beautiful veggies I've ever grown were planted in the end of October and then harvested March, April, before my tomatoes and cukes went back into the greenhouse. And we have such an incredible climate here, and a greenhouse can be used as a cold frame because the heating cost, or alternatively the cooling cost of just keeping big blower fans going, is astronomical. But that's something that could also be, if you're going to run a program, I think should be incorporated for sure on the coast, is that ability to have overwintering and just extending the shoulder seasons. So that's just food for thought.
Yeah, and it's also a very needed market is fresh foods in the winter time. So, and actually I'd say Shelter's a great example of that right now. They were at the farmers market last week with all kinds of produce that were grown under tunnels and greenhouses. So
very cool.
Any other comments on that?
Continue on with my updates. I was supposed to have a grant decision for the Real Estate Foundation of BC Ag Water Infrastructure Project top-up, and the deadline that they gave us for whether they were going to let us know came and went. So we contacted them, and they said, sorry, it's going to be another couple weeks before we have an update for you. Several weeks. That was the phrase they used. And I'm like, well, several could mean anything. So we're just going to continue checking in with them to see. I don't know if they had oversubscription probably of their programs, and so they're trying to wade through them all. But as soon as I know something, I will let the committee know for sure about that top up so that can get underway. And just one more plug to please, any questions on that watershed security strategy for the delegation that is coming on for the next month's meeting on May 14th from Water, Land, and Resource Stewardship. Please do let me know or save them up and keep them for the delegation that's coming. They're going to be speaking specifically to the watershed security strategy itself. If there's a lot of questions that they can't answer, then maybe it'll point the way for another delegation invitation. That would be more, I like having delegations come from the people that are actually making some of the decisions or facilitating some of the decisions that get made. So we'll keep that in mind for when the delegation comes next month and see what they have to say. Oh, and then this week, I'm participating with the Food Security Society and Farm to School BC in a district-wide pro day on school garden revitalization. We have quite a few school gardens here in SD 70, and some of them are more farther along than others. Some are lost their teacher champions, or they're struggling a little bit. And so we want to forge some connections among all these teachers and hopefully get some interest in the existing gardens that are already in the ground, but maybe need some extra love, or they need some new blood in there to have it be a champion, because people get very overworked and very discouraged sometimes when they're the only ones doing these gardens. But the programming that comes out of school gardens is super important to get kids engaged in it early, especially because there's a lot of kids now that don't really have, the typical memories from grandma's garden out back. If they're growing up in a city and they don't have access to a garden, then how will they ever know if they love gardening? So I'm super happy to be working on that with the Food Security Society and Farm to School BC this week. And just looking back, there was a comment made a while ago about the July Ag Development Committee meeting. So I just wanted to plant a seed with the committee. I looked back at the last several years of committee meetings for this committee, and it's usually the July ADC meeting that is canceled by decision of the committee, just based on the fact that everyone's almost at their busiest during that time and lots of people away. There's lots of holidays going on. So I just wanted to present to the committee for discussion. If looking ahead, you want to consider canceling the July meeting ongoing as kind of a thing that we do, and always can keep it open in case there's something super important that comes up, or we can speak through email, things like that. But just wanted to let you know that that's been done in the past. So that's my report.
Thanks, Amy. Do we need a motion or something like to not do the July meeting, or is it just we just don't schedule it?
Can be decided later on, though. I mean, it's only April. Does the committee want to decide now, or want to discuss it maybe in the May agenda or the June agenda?
Sure. Let's discuss it in May. But likely it won't happen. Let's just say that, that's my not executive decision. We haven't had one, and July
Yeah.
just never seems to work unless something important comes up, which
Yeah.
of course all of this stuff is important. I will also just say on the school garden part, I've been I worked on a school garden 15 years ago, and I've seen many over the years. A constant problem is that the volunteer teacher champion burns out, and I just think it's such an important piece of a school culture, and of course food, and we know about all the lunch programs and all the food programming that's needed in schools, and there's so many benefits to just growing and getting involved kids involved, eating radishes and kale right out of the garden. And so my 2 cents, should not be just laid on a champion teacher. There will be champion teachers, which is wonderful, and they can help, but my kind of thought is that this is something that needs to be part of a school culture and kind of embedded within it, whether that's through staff time or administrative policies or whatever that is. My 2 cents, and glad Helen is here listening to that. Are there any other questions or comments for Amy? Helen?
I just wanted to ask Amy, do you have an opportunity to reach out to the PACs at the schools? Because there's a rotation of parents, just like teachers kind of lead things. Different parents will lead. They'll be on there for many years sometimes, but they might help get more parents involved to be volunteers. Because my understanding is that it is a very much so a volunteer. Gardens are volunteer, and you have a volunteer teacher and volunteer parents and the students use the gardens. We're currently actually going to be discussing them. I'm all for them too. I think they provide mental health as well as learning opportunities and connecting people to the land and stewardship. So I'm trying to find ways to engage and help you support the program, because funding is always a thing, right? These are who's maintaining these, right? Who's putting up the wood, who's watering, and I think is a challenge in getting so that's I'm trying to think of ways to help you support the program and get to reach more teachers. And our teachers are busy and other champions are busy. If you can get more people involved, more parents, they might be able to help you champion it. Because what I'm seeing is some schools are doing well or have more and some less. And then there's also all these structural and water and other things that are challenges that are not going to be easily resolved, I don't think. But I have a great desire to make them work. But anyways, parents, is that?
Definitely seeing more success come with a larger, wider community of people supporting the garden and knowing about it and being committed to it. One of the gardens that we're touring is at École Grand Cèdre, which has quite a strong parent component to their garden, and it really shows. It just shows that the more eyes on the garden, the more hands doing a little bit, the more successful overall the garden is. When it's spearheaded and it's handled generally by one person, if something happens in their life or they get transferred to another school or their kids graduate and they move on and that parent leaves, then generally the garden struggles. So definitely that sense, we're right at the beginning of that journey of helping to foster and support these relationships, broader relationships, and between the teacher champions too. If you're having a school garden, at one school in SD70, then how do you know about the other school gardens unless you happen to personally know that teacher? So we're hoping that through having workshops like at the District Pro Day and starting to forge those connections, that the teachers will start to know each other, and then we can start talking about engaging parents and what that looks like and the interest in it and things like that. Because definitely seeing the wider the community that's involved with the garden, the more successful they are.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think your hand's just up from before, so I'm going to ignore you, but feel free to pipe up if you're waiting. Pat, you're next for the City of Port Alberni.
Nothing to report on the city's front. I have 2 comments to make, however. One is that in the community workforce response grants, that we've applied for successfully in the past. We have been able to include student training allowance, nutritional support, transportation, childcare, and tools and PPE, which has helped make it more available to some of the students. Totally agree with concerns or ideas about moving the course as much as possible out to the coastal communities that need them, want them, and make sure that the timing allows individuals to either work and then attend. But we have been successful in picking up a training allowance, and that has really helped to attract some students for that. The second comment that I make is that the Port Authority and the Dock Plus, the things that are going on there, I think are really instrumental to the aquaculture side, finfish, shellfish, crustaceans, seaweed, all that kind of thing. And I note that they haven't made the last couple of meetings. I'm going to have a talk with Zoran and see if there's something we could do to shift it, either shift the responsibility for Cecilia in order to be able to attend, or just have somebody making sure that they're attending, or maybe Cecilia is getting a report to Amy in advance of the meeting. I don't know, but I do know that there's stuff going on there that really helps advance our work in this food safety, security, and supply arena. Thank you. And I'm sorry I have to leave at this point.
Thanks so much, Pat. And I appreciate anyways that if you check in with them, I do think it's an important part of a collaborative group. They do have a lot of assets and activities there. Is there any questions for Pat before he disappears? All right, Pat, feel free to disappear then.
Great,
And,
I'm gone then. Thank you.
Helen, you're up next for SD70.
I don't have much to report. The environmental stewardship policy was adopted, so you'll see that on the site. And I know they worked on the administrative procedure to go along with that. I missed the meeting, but I believe it was adopted. So I don't know if that's posted yet, but that should be coming up soon online as well. So that will give you more information about the process. We have on the Pacific Rim website, there's also some administrative roles that have been announced, some movement. So there's some different VPs and vice principals, pardon me, and principal positions in the Valley. That's on the site. Our next public meeting is April the 23rd at EJ Dunn School, 5 p.m. And virtual access is also available through the website if you like. The federal government has announced a new national food program, so it'll be interesting to see how that'll work with provincial one. So I'm excited about that. And I know Mel also has a new, Mel Burton runs the Breakfast Club at ADSS, and she has a new lunch program for students in need. And she's got through Save on Foods, she has 50 lunches, bagged lunches available for students. So that's great. She's a real go-getter. So that's not school district. I guess that's a little bit different, but I'm excited to share that news that she continues to work hard and support our students in the Valley. I can't think of anything else. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen. Any questions? And if not, we have Island Health, and we met Kaylee and she had to leave early. Tom also had to leave early. And if you look at the chat, however, Tom did put a note in there, another $83 million for agricultural water projects being managed through Investment Agriculture Foundation of BC. And I believe what he's saying is that they'll be in the form of extension workshops, which are not yet scheduled, but will include water storage, irrigation efficiency, and soil sampling analysis and management. There's also some drought workshops on the Coxsila happening on Thursday. So yeah, a lot of focus from the Ministry on Water these days.
Just to clarify, the 83 million is a resurgence of funding into this same funding stream that I accessed for our agricultural water infrastructure project. They originally allocated 40 million, and now they've added another 83 million. And so they're really bumping that fund up, because I think the funding must have been gone almost as soon as they posted it. I think a lot of people applied and it was very oversubscribed, and maybe they took that as a sign that, you know what, snowpack is down. Everyone's super concerned about this. There could be some good projects and some good progress come out of this. And so that's another 83 million that'll be upcoming. I haven't seen the intake open yet though. Like no details about that.
All right, thanks, Amy. Yeah, that's good to know. Lisa, Alberni Farmers Institute.
Hello, everyone. We've got the April 28th potluck we're going to have. As you say, everybody's getting busy, so it's growing season. So we'll see how many people we can get out and about. The Beaver Creek Home Community Club, they're going to have a homestead market. I believe it's June 15th. Oh, I got to double check the time. They've asked us to participate with an information table and stuff like that. And we've got a few other things happening later on in the year. But yeah, everybody's out. It's fencing time. It's growing time. Everybody's getting busy. I'd just like to mention about the water project, 83 million. I do know somebody from the Comox Valley had gone through the thing to see what they needed to do in order to get some funding or whatever. And when they actually went through it all, it basically would take 3 years in order to fill out all the paperwork and do all the projects and stuff like that. So it sounds all great that, you know, there's this money available, but the time frame in order for people to actually see something out of it could be 3 years. So anyways,
I think that one was through the environmental farm plan, wasn't it? The beneficial management practices program. I think I saw that too.
Yeah, there's a whole list of things that you have to actually go through in order to apply for the funding and that. So, and I do know the person who had put that question out, you know, if tell me if I'm wrong, that, you know, if these are the things we have to do, it's going to take 3 years before we actually have access to water. And that person received a phone call from somebody in ministry asking if that was the type of relation they wanted with government. When they pointed out that, you know, so anyways, you know, so there's lots of good intentions, but whether things happen in a timely manner and fashion for farmers to be able to actually get that water in place is to be seen.
Well, the ministry is going to be attending our next meeting as a delegation. Yeah. So maybe there'll be some questions happening.
Yes. Thanks.
Thanks, Lisa. I hadn't heard that last part, and it's very interesting. I did see the post as well, and it is, there's a lot of bureaucracy and steps to get through. And yes, people are just going ahead and paying to build a dugout or something on their own. And because of that 3-year time frame. Interesting.
I had regrets from Anne. She's next, and she said she had no updates to report.
Okay. Thank you. And then we have Anna from the Alberni Valley Food Security Society.
Okay, unmuted. Not a whole lot to report. Just been putzing away at the Growers Guide. We've been having the monthly workshops. I think the last one there were not many people at, but that's all right. We just keep on trucking, and the next one will be, I think it's you're thirsty, you're hot, or something. I can't remember the actual theme of it, but it'll be about irrigation and things of that nature. We just had our first community cleanup of the Dry Creek Garden on Sunday. So that was great. And wow, like the difference between last year and this year, it's not so overwhelming. I remember our first cleanup last year was just like, oh my goodness, everything's gone to seed, everything's so overgrown. So super excited about that. And yeah, just reaching out. We have a couple beds that are available just because one of our members unfortunately has had some really serious health stuff come up. So she's had to give up 2 beds, and yeah, so, but they should all be filled by the end of the month, and people are excited to get growing. And lots of just looking at, oh, what kind of grants do I want to write? There's I have a lot of grant writing to do. And then just, yeah, gearing up for a good gleaning season. And there's lots of little things like, oh, where are the insurance papers for the trailer? And finding all these things out is yeah, just interesting. So, and then I guess our biggest thing is next Wednesday, not tomorrow, but the following Wednesday, we're having a public event up at the Echo Field House, and we're going to have some lovely presenters. Oh, they're both on the screen. Heather Shobe and Amy Needham doing, will be workshopping tree care, like fruit tree care and maintenance. So super stoked about that. And then we'll be doing an interactive gleaning something or other. I'm still gonna come up with it prior to next week. So be prepared. You might not be able to leave the room until you pick an apple. So I'm excited. It's good because we did say to our membership that we would start having some public events, and then it's, you know, the thing with public events is you have to organize them, and you have to have time to organize them and all the fun stuff. So happy to, you know, have Amy and Heather help out and step up, and it should be a great workshop. And I think that's it for me, other than Pro Day on Friday. Super excited about it. Should be that should be a really fun day. So I'm looking forward to it. And I've heard from a few of the teachers that have signed up for the day, and they are as well looking forward to it. So it's good.
All right, thanks, Anna. Erica, Eat West Coast.
Hello. There are so many little spring projects going on right now, but they're all in a lot of planning stages. So I think I'll wait till the next meeting. I'll have more info, some great food security projects. So I'll just mention 3 things that kind of more relate to my specific work. One, Amy talked about the Coastal Agriculture Roundtable that met on April 3rd. It was a great group because, you know, there's lots of people involved with the food system, but now we have quite a few people that have jobs where that broader idea of food security and sovereignty is part of their actual expectations for their job and their job description, which is really exciting. So it's kind of been new in the last year or so. So great group of people. We talked a lot about the emergency access related to the grant as Amy presented it. There's lots of discussion around that for the coast. A huge issue. We also talked a lot about government supports around food policies and growing, you know, particularly about water, which has come up obviously today a lot, water issues and land use, and especially within the nation's supporting community food through social and health and social development, and how we can do a better job of that. Yeah, so I look forward to, we'll meet again in the fall sometime, and anyone on this committee is welcome to join us out here in the coast. The second thing I just wanted to touch on, because I brought it up earlier, is one thing our organization, the Clayoquot Biosphere, is really engaged in is the federal biodiversity goals. and work around protected and conserved areas. So that includes working to establish, this is a lot of jargon, but other effective protected areas. And I mentioned earlier the Indigenous protected and conserved areas, as well as stewardship corridor projects, which are all related, and food comes up all the time. And it sounds like when I asked Mosaic about policies or projects, there isn't anything. It sounded like nothing is going on. I was hoping they'd be like, oh, corridor, oh, we talked to this, but I didn't really hear much, which is also what I'm hearing from the people here on the coast working in this area as it relates to forestry. So I just thought I'd share that's quite a big piece of work. And then the third last piece is the Clayoquot Biosphere Trust is on our capital campaign for our new Biosphere Center building here in Tofino, and it's going really great. Hopefully there'll be some announcements soon, but a huge portion of that is a new teaching and processing kitchen for the coast, which was hugely demanded by all of the communities. We're going to have an information session about it, I think maybe in late May sometime, if you want to come out. We had an advisory committee to do the initial development of the plans, but as we're moving into design, we want more input from those that have understanding of how those kitchens can work or function, and particularly the wide variety of end users for this sort of space. I wish Pat was here, because I wanted to share that the Doc Plus has been very supportive in this process and have been involved. So we're trying to learn from their experiences as much as possible, and hope we can somehow even position ourselves as a bit of a maybe satellite to the Doc Plus, because there's quite a few people from the coast that have used those facilities. So getting their insight. So I think that's it. Oh, I'm going to share one more thing. Actually, I'll put it in the chat. The Clayoquot Biosphere Trust is running an Art of Hosting professional development opportunity. It's 3 days, next week, April 21st to 23rd. We still have a few spots, so I just wanted to share it. If you're somebody who is involved with leading or facilitating people in complex discussions, you want to learn more about engagement strategies, meaningful dialogue, or even facilitation skills, you can sign up. There is a fee it's like $1,000 for 3 days, but with Alberni Clayoquot Health Network, there's great subsidies available. So if you are a nonprofit working for government, particularly if you're working out in the Clayoquot area, then you can get subsidies. You can just shoot me an email, or I'll put the link here, and you can contact our coordinator too. So few spots left. Feel free to share. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Erica. And I put a plug for the Art of Hosting workshops. Really are very well facilitated and a great opportunity. Any questions for Erica? All right, Jen is not here for the NTC. I don't think we have any updates from her. Spirit Square Farmers Market, same. I know the Farmers Market Spirit Square is doing a 3-week seedling sale event starting the last week of April and running the first 2 weeks of May. Port Authority, marine stakeholders. Patty, you're next for 4-H.
Okay. I don't have a lot to report for 4-H. We do have a couple things coming up. We're still a little bit slow getting things off the ground and everything restarted. It's kind of been difficult, I think, partly because we lost pretty much everybody with COVID. And so now we're kind of starting from the beginning, and a lot of the leaders even are brand new, and it just takes some time. But we do have a judging rally coming up this weekend at Cherry Creek Hall for the whole club. It's going to be sort of a workshop rally to teach the kids more about 4-H judging and how that works. And it's just part of the leadership development part of the 4-H program. And I think the biggest thing I wanted to let everybody know is that on Saturday, May the 11th at the Spirit Square Farmers Market, we're going to be holding a bake sale and a manure sale, not at the same table. The manure is by pre-sale. So we're asking people to go on the Facebook page. It's going to be $15 for well-rotted horse and rabbit manure. So it's ready to spread. They're approximately 50-pound bags. So if people can pre-order them, and then they'll be able to pick them up that day. And I think that's about all I have to report for today. Thanks.
Thanks, Patty. Are you looking for bags? Are you using the feed bags?
We are using feed bags, but they need to be the ones that not the paper ones.
Yeah.
So we've got quite a few, is my understanding, but
Okay.
we'll always take more.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
I know sometimes there's a mad rush for those. Lisa, do you have a question?
Yeah, are you going to have it on a Facebook page, Patty?
It's supposed to be on the Facebook page. I don't know what's happening with that because I don't run the Facebook part of it. I'm not very good with technology, but it is supposed to be up there already. If it's not, I will endeavor to find out what's going on.
I'll check it out and I'll attach it to the Farmers Institute page as well.
Okay, thanks very much.
All right, thanks, Patty. Do we have anything else? We've got primary agricultural producers. Do you have anything on from that front, Lisa? And there's Amy with her hand. Go ahead, Amy.
Lisa can go first if she has anything. Any updates from the farm side of things?
I think everybody's been, like I said before, pretty busy. Prices are pretty high at the auction marts and stuff like that. So we might start seeing people holding on to heifers, and that might even push the pricing up a bit more if people are going to try to restock some of their herds, because some people have gone out of business. Whether or not those people are going to return, it's hard to say. I envision that we're going to see high prices for a while. So feed costs, droughts, people can't afford the feed. We brought in one truckload of feed and it was over $14,000. I can't imagine what some of these other producers they're spending. Actually, we did have somebody show up on the weekend for a visit, a milk producer on the mainland, and he's already had to purchase $250,000 worth of feed. So it's a little bit scary about how things are moving forward here. So yeah.
Thanks, Lisa.
Tanya Shannon sent her regrets, but she also sent an update for me to relay. So just wanted to let everyone know about the Gather and Graze dinner event. Started rolling out information on all their social media platforms for the cabins. So check out those for more information for both nights, July 26th and 27th. There's seats seem to be selling quite fast, so there's very limited spaces left. Confirmed producers and businesses working with include eCanadian Seafood, Nighthawk Ridge Farms, No Rhyme or Reason Farm, Stonehaven Farm, Sprout Lake Farm, and Half Acre Garden. And the tickets are available by contacting Tanya, so I can add that information into the minutes. And then there's going to be a spring market, Sunday, May 5th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the cabin, 8865 Beaver Creek Road. Working on confirming the usual vendors with a couple new ones. An exciting note, Rage's Farm is joining again, and they're diversifying with some products. Some strawberry hanging baskets, floral hanging baskets, mini cucumbers ready to go. And just a note here that if you are planning on attending, parking is limited, so consider carpooling, and cash is preferred as their Wi-Fi can be a bit finicky. And that's all I have from Tanya. I also checked with, there was a question, I was just remembering as people were going through the reports, there was a question from the committee regarding adding in a electoral area director update from Fred. So I checked with administration on that, and I got the direction back that the updates are supposed to come through staff, through me, because I'm the staff person associated with the committee. But that being said, obviously, if there's anything of burning importance that would be related to the committee that comes through the board that I miss, 100% Fred, jump in and relay it.
I can jump in if required. Funny thing is, we went to ABICC on the weekend, all the counselors and everybody, and had a big chat with everybody. There's people here from the city and people from the regional district, so I'm not going to say too much, but we're going to be discussing some things that came up there at a town hall this weekend, Sunday at 2 p.m. Beaver Creek Hall. There are some things the city wants to pass on to us for cost-wise that we need to discuss, and upcoming transit studies and things like that that could affect things for the regional electoral areas. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that, Fred and Amy. Also, just thought of something on the primary agricultural producer thing. I've got some meat chicks coming, and more exciting than that is that I know 2 other people that also will have meat chicks coming in June. So like, there's not a lot of chicken being produced in the Valley, and having 3 of us, you know, even if it's small numbers, is pretty exciting. So hopefully more to come, perhaps. And Anna, I see you there.
Yeah, I get all my piglets on May the 4th, so we're having fun coming up with Star Wars names for all our pigs. I just wanted to let people know that Rages is also starting a monthly pop-up farm market on site. It's pretty much is the 3rd Thursday of every month, so that starts May until the end of September. I think the one in August is the 4th Thursday, but it's 5 to 8 p.m. And so it's all the rage with no big deal canning. And Amanda is the market manager, and they'll be getting more, they're looking for vendors to attend and getting the word out. So just so people are aware of that.
Thanks, Anna. That's great to see Rage is doing some new things. All right, can we get a motion that the ADC accept all of these reports for information? Helen, is there a seconder? Erica, thank you very much. Any opposition to accepting a report for information? No. Okay, so the motion is moved. Thank you very much. Is there any late business? All right, and so we have a question period. So are there any comments or questions from the public? Kristen?
No, there are no questions in the chat and nothing in the email.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are 3 minutes over. However, that's not too bad. And we did hear from Mosaic, which was really great. Glad that they could come. So our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 14th via Zoom. And with no further ado, I will adjourn this meeting at 11:18 a.m.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks,
Excellent sharing
everybody.
as usual. Good to see everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Have a good rest
Thanks,
of your week.
Heather. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, everybody.